Yo, what's going, guys? Trey back again here, bringing another video. This one's going to be doing a video talking about The Walking Dead and versus other zombie stories, movies, books, comic books, video games, any kind of zombie story, literature, any of that stuff. Is The Walking Dead the best of them all? That's the question. Is The Walking Dead the best of them all? Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've read absolutely every single comic book out there about zombies or seen every movie or, played every video game, this kind of stuff. There's just so many, there's so many that are out there, and it's become a big genre in and of itself. That it'd be kind of hard. Somebody would have to be crazy about it to really see all of it or experience all of it, because there's just so much stuff out there. But when I look back at it, I consider myself to be a pretty big fan of zombie stories. I'm going to do a video coming up talking about why I think zombie apocalypses are so interesting, and the stories make for such good, interesting stories. And I'm definitely going to be doing that pretty soon. So, but I think that when it comes down to it, when you compare it to all the other big zombie stories out there, there's something different about The Walking Dead. There's just something really different that the other stories really don't have. Now, I'm a big fan of George A. Romero. I love the old Dead films, pretty much every single one of them. I love them all, except for some of the newer ones were a little questionable, like Survival of the Dead and that kind of stuff. Land of the Dead was okay. Starting from, Night of the Living Dead, I love that, the classic one. I like the remake, the early 90s remake. I thought was really, really well done too. And after I saw that was, I think the 90s remake was the first zombie movie I'd seen. And that sort of sparked my curiosity, because I don't necessarily like horror movies. Most of the time, I don't really like the horror genre in general. But for some reason, I love zombie stories. When it comes to Friday the 13th and Freddy, Jason, all like Halloween, all these different horror, movies, any of those really. I'm not a big fan of the genre. I don't know why. I'm sure a lot of you are, because it's a huge genre. But for some reason, zombies, for me, I'm a huge, huge fan of. And the thing about it is when I look at all the others, it seems to me The Walking Dead is just so far, better than everything else that is out there in terms of zombie stories. It's not even funny. I mean, George A. Romero's movies, all of them are great. Dawn of the Dead is amazing. Day of the Dead is one of my favorite zombie, it's probably my favorite zombie movie. One of my favorite zombie stories. But, in comparison, when you want to compare that with The Walking Dead, be it The Walking Dead comic book, be it The Walking Dead TV show, it can't hold a candle to it, in my opinion, in terms of a story, even as far as we've gotten in the Walking Dead TV show now to near the end of season 2 and onward. It's just going to get better from here. But even what we have already, is better than anything else, in my opinion, out there. The only thing that, you can compare the comic book and the TV show, and some people like the comic book better, some people like the TV show version better. Whatever, it's basically a different interpretation of the same story with the same characters. Now they go down a different path, and they will kill different characters different times in each one, and they are two unique stories. But I view them as one for the purpose of this video, because the characters are all pretty much the same, just with small changes in the TV show's version to keep it different from the comic book. But I mean, when you look at all the others, it seems to me that they're just they're so far inferior to The Walking Dead, it's not even funny. One that I'll be excited to see is World War Z. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I tried listening to the audio, I think it's audiobooks of it, or yeah, I'm pretty sure I tried doing that. I couldn't do it. Maybe I'll try reading it. I'm not a big fan of reading novels about zombies. For some reason, for me, it doesn't do it the same as a comic book does, or I got to have the visual there. A novel by itself, even Walking Dead Rise of the Governor, I haven't, gotten into that yet, just because for me, I don't know, for some reason novels are really difficult for me to get into when it comes to this genre. I kind of want to see it, either comic book or in video or video game, play it. Any of that stuff is good for me, but reading it I haven't gotten quite into yet with this genre. I don't mind reading certain things like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, but this one, for some reason, zombies I can't get into reading for. I don't know why. Maybe eventually I'll pick it up and try that, but I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, I look at the characters of all these other movies and all these other stories and things like that, and there are some likable characters and some characters you remember. There is, I believe his name was Ben in Night of the Living Dead. In Dawn of the Dead, we had, see, I can't even remember a lot of the characters' names. I remember Flyboy. I don't remember his real name or his name as a character in the movie. I remember the taller black guy who's a likable character. Flyboy's a likable character, and then the smaller white guy, he's a likable character too. But I don't, like, that's even the thing. I can't even remember off the top of my head their names. And that's my point, is that a lot of them are just forgettable. You know, they're very forgettable characters. We don't really get to feel the same way for them as we do for Rick Grimes, as we do for, you know, all these characters, Carl, and all these characters in The Walking Dead, Shane, and all the rest of them. You know, it's just so different. Day of the Dead was, I think, a great idea, and just it seemed the way the characters went in the movie and everything. Just, I don't know, man, very forgettable. I remember the main girl, Sarah, but you know, like a lot of the characters, like, you know, it didn't feel the same way. The characters didn't have the same impact on me as a person as the characters in The Walking Dead do. That could be because The Walking Dead cracked the code, so to speak. They figured out that in order to do a zombie apocalypse story right, you can't do it in one movie. It's not possible, okay? You have to do it over long term. You got to be able to spend more time with these characters, because surviving a zombie apocalypse is not a one-time thing. It's a war of attrition, you know? It's a long-term survival horror type situation where you have to find ways to survive, insurmountable odds, you know, human beings not being, you know, top of the food chain anymore. And I'll get into this a little bit more in my my video when I talk about, you know, why I think zombie stories are so interesting, zombie apocalypse stories are so interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it, you know, is to do it over long term, you know. But even still, since that idea has been presented, I haven't seen anybody else take it and duplicate it yet. Nobody. Even in comic books, I've tried a couple other zombie type comic books. One was called Cross. I read Cross a little bit, and they're sort of like zombies, except they developed this weird cross thing, and they're kind of like Rage. They're sort of like 28 Days Later, and that kind of stuff, where they just become enraged. You know, they're not your atypical zombies the way we think of them, but very, very similar in a lot of ways. But you know, to me it seems nothing else really is even close or even holds a candle at The Walking Dead. Let me know what you guys think about the topic. Is The Walking Dead the best zombie story of all time? I say no question, absolutely, and I can't even see anything that even comes close to it or is even comparable to it. That's it, guys. Later. Peace.